Good afternoon, everybody. And welcome to AI for Retail. Raise your hand if you're in retail. Okay, raise your hand if you're not in retail. Excellent, this talk is going to interest everybody. I'm very glad you made it. Raise your hand if you're a decision maker for how AI is getting rolled out at your company. Great, my sales team, spot those people. It's fair to say that retail has gone through a lot over the last decades. Omni-channel, ROPO, online advertising, and that more than a next wave, Gen AI feels like it's hitting us a bit like a tsunami. And it's a bit tough to stay calm and optimistic because decision makers are reading reports from the MIT that say that 95% of Gen AI pilots are failing. Despite the fact that when you open up any of the leading frontier model applications and start working with them, you have the distinct feeling that there's a tremendous amount of potential, that there's so many ways to make this useful, that it should just work. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Dust. We provide companies with a horizontal platform to design, deploy, and maintain specialized AI agents that are connected to the frontier models that we've all heard of, to internal data that's obviously private and sometimes very sensitive, and to an interface that makes it easy and intuitive for the many, not the few, to build agents that do real work. We've been working on this since 2022, so it's almost like we want to say Dust agents since 2022, given that it's a topic that's become a little more front and center for people. But what I wanted to share today is some of the things that we're seeing with companies in retail at all stages on their adoption journey on internal processes, and the patterns that I believe we can infer for success going forward. Now, I know that we could talk about many aspects of Gen AI for retail. We could talk about the technological shifts in how we design assets, how we answer to customers, how we work on pretty much every single aspect of the creative process. Those are all amazing topics, and Dust as a platform interfaces with them too. But because we're a horizontal platform, we also get to see how leaders and decision makers are taking a step back and thinking, what does this mean for the next years, not just the next months? How am I going to rewire my company in order to remain on top of this wave? I think it's a very different approach, and that's why we'll focus on the internal use cases that I'm seeing and where we're seeing some of the patterns emerge. First of all, I think that we all agree this is a journey, not a destination. On internal workflows, I think we're clearly identifying 4 distinct steps. The first one took us a bit by surprise 2 years ago. Shadow IT, we've all heard about it. And it was the fact that many of the more junior people on the team were all of a sudden finishing their presentations on time, had analyses that were a little longer and written in a slightly better English, and all of a sudden had more content coming from their desk on a weekly basis. They were using ChatGPT, they just weren't using it in a very secure way. Many companies have obviously had to take that by the horns and manage to move to a secure environment to explore and interact with this new technology. We call this step 1. The second step that many companies are also adopting is the era of a connected chatbot. The chatbot is built internally. We're very proud. We've called it Company GPT or GPT Chat Company, and we're very proud of that internal name. It has access to maybe 1 or maybe 2 or maybe 3 models, and we can even drag and drop a PDF or maybe connect to Google Drive. It's definitely progress, and it's really helped us understand the power and the potential of these tools across teams. Doesn't quite feel like a revolution yet, but it seems like we're on the right track. Step 3 started hitting us, I'd say, late 2023, definitely early 2024, and it hit the procurement teams first because pretty much every single SaaS tool that we have wrote us an email saying that they had an assistant, that it was AI-powered, that it was amazing, and that we should absolutely start to use it. And the upsell was between $8 and $15, but we would obviously give the first 6 months for free and see how the pilot would go. The era of embedded assistance. Pretty much every tool we use now has a sparkle button. It has a prettify this, a summarize that, a translate this and other. And it still feels like we're getting more of the AI. That said, it still feels like we're missing something. It doesn't quite look like the future of work. I agree. And at Dust, we really believe that there's a fourth step. Now, obviously, the word agents is going to have to come up in this presentation at some point. I've been talking for 4 minutes and I haven't mentioned it yet. But rather than just AI agents, I think I want to describe the way in which we feel most optimistic about the potential for people and AI to work together and get a lot more done faster. What we think this looks like is an agent OS, an operating system, a platform that actually allows every team, every human on every team, and the specific software tools that they've now built that do stuff better and faster to collaborate. The meter index is a scientific index that measures the number of minutes LLMs can spend on their own without going completely ballistic. Right now, we're roughly at 2 hours. On frontier models, you can give complex instructions to an agent, let it run for a few hours, and come back with a pretty high expectation that it's going to do the job correctly. Software developers using complex orchestration on tools like Claude Code or Cursor are starting to see this happen. That time is doubling every 7 months. So by the end of 2026, reliably, agents are going to be able to pick up 6 hours, 8 hours, a full day's worth of work and complete it reliably, predictably, on time, on budget, and on demand. And the fact that that's happening in less than 18 months should have us all quite excited, but also quite worried. How is a chat interface going to help us delegate work to agents that are going to run off for 8 hours and then come back and say, I'm done? Or run off for 2 hours and then come back and say, wait, I'm stuck. I think I need information that I didn't have initially. How are we going to be able to collaborate as a team from finance, marketing, engineering, on a project that's currently taking us weeks or even months? If we want to bring in our own agents, does everybody keep their own agents? Do we go back and work on our chat interface once we've had the meeting? It doesn't seem like that's where the most potential is. The agent OS is really the ability to power the people, the data, and the processes, the agents, that are going to really complete work, real work, not just answers, not just diagrams, actual projects, end to end in some cases when we think it's worth it. And for this software to work, it needs to follow a few principles that I believe few of the current solutions offer natively. That's one of the reasons we're excited to build it. Why do we need this agent OS? I see some of you asking. It doesn't feel like we need that. We've got agents. We just got sold on Copilot. The first 3 months are going pretty well. And I now have a button to understand how I can write a formula in Excel. This feels like the future. Let me just bring us back 20 years when people were saying, I don't need a CRM. I've got a list of customers. I don't need a piece of software to actually do more. We've got processes and they run quite well. And then came 20 years of understanding that the value wasn't in the customer list. The value was embedding the customer list in processes, in internal workflows, in ways of doing things that our company did very differently from the same company next door. That connection enabled pipelines for enrichment, complex workflows to reach out to customers, personalized pipelines, etc., etc., etc. And the same dimension of change to our individual work internally is about to happen and will only be facilitated by the right type of software. Backmarket's a customer that has been working on the upcycling market for over a decade. They've helped millions of customers get their technology at a reasonable price and while keeping the planet a more sustainable place for all of us. In deciding to roll out AI internally, they were quite convinced that the teams knew best what they should build and that they should enable, rather than centralize, the process of understanding which agents would help the business most. The fraud operations team is tasked with understanding if customer requests about iPhones that haven't arrived are real or not. And they were able to build, without a single engineer, agents that have increased the detection rate of fraud significantly. Miracle powers the marketplace efforts of some of the largest retailers in the world: Best Buy, Carrefour, Decathlon. They understood very early on that AI changed everything, and were among the earliest adopters of ChatGPT for enterprise worldwide. They decided to go further last year, and almost 70% of the employees of the company have built an AI agent that is connected to internal data, that helps them on real tasks. They think it's still only the beginning, and are really engaged in making true collaboration between humans and agents a reality. So why do pilots fail? I think there's 4 patterns that happen pretty regularly, and you don't have to raise your hand if you feel like you've heard one of them before. The first one is we'll build it ourselves, end to end, and it'll be great. I think that unless you have the budget of the team that was on stage previously, and maybe even if you do, there's a real risk that the pace of innovation in this space is not a match for internal development capabilities of teams who do not have the expertise on frontier models that is required for agent orchestration. We saw it happen after the first ChatGPT launch. We're seeing it happen with agents and tool use. We believe we'll see it again with collaboration. The second is POC theater. You think that you've done the job by launching the first version. This is not about launching a first version. This is about embarking on a decade of transformation, of enabling teams to understand that this is how we work differently now, not just we have a new tool now. The last one is confusing urgency with the true building of a culture. Forcing KPIs on adoption. How many times did you talk to Copilot last week? I want to know, or I'm revoking your license. That's not how we're going to enable exploration. That's not how we're going to let people fail and learn where they can actually make it work locally. For us, some amazing CEOs that have led their companies to transformation at the fastest pace have done very similar things. One, they've mandated it top down and they've been incredibly enthusiastic about it. 2, they've let the bottom-up motion really take place. Give them the tools, let them build. They've provided tops-down guardrails. Of course, those are needed, but they let them build. And 3, there's a true culture of iteration. Hackathons, workshops, lunch and learns. Not just an army of consultants coming in, fixing it, and walking out, but everybody on the team feeling like they're part of the solution, and that inventing agents is not going to get them fired, it's going to get them promoted. That's what we deeply believe is happening right now, and where I feel all of you, leaders and decision makers, have a crucial role to play. It's not just about the technology you decide to purchase, it's about setting the tone and the mindset for true, deep adoption and a culture of builders across your teams. Thank you very much.